Greetings everyone, and in this video I am going to continue my coverage of Tekken 8 through the closed network tests. In the previous video I talked about the general system mechanics, what overall changed. I forgot to mention that low parries you can't screw afterwards, but I'm going to write that in the comments. In this video I'm going to focus entirely on Heat. Heat has been discussed ad nauseum prior to release. It is obviously the newest, the most major thing that got changed from Tekken 7 to Tekken 8. But now that we actually have access to the game, we can actually record footage from it. It makes much more sense to discuss the Heat system, because now I can record footage, I could show you what I'm talking about, you have visual cues, you have stuff to look at, right? We're going to keep getting matches, I'm going to keep projecting them. So, first of all, that bar, that meter below my health bar is the heat meter. Heat meter, heat gauge, heat time, whatever you want to call it, right? That blue thing. You start each and every round with that meter full, and once you expend it all, there's no possible way for you to get it back for that round. You have to wait for the next one. You don't have to do anything to build it up. You just start off with it full. You have access to it from the very start of the match. Now, some characters like King can refill the heat gauge by doing certain things like landing throws, but that only applies when heat is still active and the meter has not been completely depleted. Okay? Number one, how do I enter heat? The simplest way is to just press the heat button, which is 2+3, and you enter this animation. Now, this animation requires a couple of frames to complete. If this is not Soul Charge from Soul Calibur 6, you cannot use this as a get-off-me tool. You need a couple of frames for this to activate. You cannot do this under pressure. This is not a defensive tool, this is an offensive tool. Okay? At least for King, I don't know, maybe some characters have like super broken heat bursts that are activated within one frame, but for King, you need frames to activate it. Now, once you press it, you do this animation, and you do an attack. This attack is a mid. As you see, it does not launch on hit, and it is plus on block. I would assume it is much more plus on hit than on block, but we can't confirm that yet because we do not have access to frame data in practice mode yet. It is there. It is right here. See that? Underneath opponent attack info, player frame info. It is currently grayed out in the beta because they don't want us freaking out over frame data while the game is still not released, which is smart. So again, you press the heat button, you do the animation, you do a mid. The mid does not launch, it puts your opponent in a forced mix-up situation. Now they're minus, they have to guess. Now this attack can be cancelled. If you press back, you don't do the attack. I do not know what kind of like advantage you get from this, I do not know, but you can do that. Now whether you do that or not, as you can see, I just lost 30% almost of my heat gauge just for doing that. Now for King, again, I can get that back if I land a throw, but for other characters you can't. Okay? So again, number one, press the heat button, do the animation, do the mid or do not, and you enter heat but at a small penalty of 30% of your meter already gone. Second way of entering heat is to land one of your heat engagers. They are listed here in the command list. For King at least, and I assume this would apply to other characters as well, these need to land on hit. I don't believe any one of them can activate it on block. I don't know if other characters have that. That would be like broken. But in King's case, for example, forward 2-1, which is King's 15 frame long range Punisher, right? Whenever you land forward 2-1, this cannot be cancelled. Whenever you land it, as long as your opponent is standing, you land it in the neutral or as a punish or whatnot, because in the air it does not happen. You cannot activate it in the air. Whenever you do this, no matter what I do, I could like press back all I want, I could like do whatever, you're going to run afterwards, after them, and you're going to activate heat. There's no way for you to not do this, okay? Now, it is important to note that this running animation is not a true run. Because, for example, King has a while running 3, and if I do this and I mash 3, I get a regular standing 3. But the entire running animation is a buffer window, so if I input a while running 3 within that run animation, this is the part where it's confusing, I get a while running 3. So basically, this is not a true run. This does not restrict you to while running moves. You run after them, but then you end standing. But the entire animation is a buffer window. So I can, for example, do King's Shining Wizard from here, okay? Or I can do his Giant Swing, okay? So if I enter heat that way, I do not get penalized. I have access to my full heat meter. I do not lose 30%. So in King's case, even though I'm going to discuss this more in detail when I talk about King, you have 3 hits, or like you have 2 conventional hits. This is like conventional hit just landed. This shoulder tackle just landed. He has this new armor move, which is like a stance, and from the stance you have 1 attack. If you land the attack, you enter heat. What else? He has a new stance, which is this, and if you land the throw from it, you are in heat. And finally, if you land his new crouching throw, the pedigree, you are also in heat. Now some of these, for example like this one, you cannot heat dash afterwards. Like, you do not run. It's not like this one. This one you automatically run after them. But if you land this, for example, you just enter heat and you don't run after them, okay? So, now that we are in heat, we already discussed how to get into it, either through pressing the heat burst or the heat button or doing the heat engager. Now we are in heat, right? Now what to do from heat? Number 1, 3 general system mechanics. All your moves do chip damage now. All your moves. Now outside of this, if you're not in heat, only certain attacks, for example King's Deadly Boomerang, it does chip damage on block, whether you're in heat or not. I do not know if it does more chip damage when you're in heat. I did not bother to test because I can't set the dummy to block. But yeah, some moves do chip damage whether you're in heat or not, but when you are in heat, all your moves do chip damage. How do we... See? All your moves do chip damage. Number 2, you can do a heat dash. So, that means I entered heat, right? Now I land forward 2-1. Now this dash is a little bit different. This dash is a little bit different. This is not the same one as this one. So from here, if I do it again, I do the second heat dash. Now this consumes your heat entirely. Let me get it. Well, not entirely. It consumes like a huge chunk of it. See? That consumed it entirely for me. That's like, because I'm in practice mode, it's still available. So that you can do whether you're in a combo, whether you land it in the air. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, please don't accept, please don't accept, please don't accept. He did not accept. Thank God. So unlike like heat engaging where you can't do it in the air, if you are already in heat, you can do this on in neutral, like when you land it willy-nilly, or you can do this in the air, right? So 2 heat dashes, I believe, they are no longer possible. They used to be possible in an earlier build. They kind of like took them out. But heat dash, does it say here? It doesn't say anything. Whatever. Heat dash, you hold forward after one of your heat engagers. Some of them. Well, again, in King's case, the throws and whatnot, you cannot activate heat afterwards. You cannot activate the dash afterwards. And finally, the final perk of being in heat is doing the heat smash, which is basically your rage drive. So you get like 2 rage drives. First rage drive is the one that does not launch, that engages heat for you, at least in King's case. Second rage drive is pressing it again while you are in heat. So, again, quick recap. Press the heat button to do the animation to the mid, or press the heat button to back to cancel. but then you enter heat at a penalty, or do one of your heat engagers on hit, but not in a combo. At least in King's case, he does not have anything that you can land in a combo and engage his heat for. You need to earn a hit in neutral. Like this, for example, you can land this throw and you get heat. You can land this throw and you get heat. And this way you enter heat without the penalty. Now, as I said, the dash, this cannot be cancelled, and you cannot do a heat engager that enters heat and not enter heat. You cannot cancel the heat entering thing. You cannot save it for later. Once in heat, all your attacks do chip damage, so just do 10 strings, I guess. You can do a heat dash, which is basically like, for example, if I do this. See? That was a heat dash. I did not do like an optimized combo, whatever. You can do it whatever, whether you land it on block, on hit, in a combo, not in a combo. Just do the heat engager and press forward afterwards, and you do the heat dash. And according to my latest knowledge, that consumes your meter entirely. It used to be possible to do 2 heat dashes in a previous build. It is no longer possible. And the final perk of being in heat is pressing the heat button again to do the heat smash, which is basically a rage drive. So yeah, that is all I have to say about the heat system. Now that you have like visual cue, I hope you like understand it a little bit better. And now I'm going to make the final video where I talk about King. Specifically, if you care about King, if you play King, or if you want to play against him, I would recommend that you watch that as well. Take care and goodbye.